the first thing that I thought was back to my first experience of post-September 11 and what that meant for society. So my mom and I went out to a restaurant, and the host was of Arab descent. She was Muslim. She wasn't wearing a headscarf or anything, but a man in front of us identified her as a Muslim and just began to taunt her and speak horrible things to her. And I was relatively young, raised. This was in Denver, Colorado. Yeah. Raised a Catholic. Never had really had experience or exposure to Muslims. I remember the lady crying and leaving and going to the restroom, and then the manager coming. And we left we had dinner, we left the restaurant, and my mom and I told my mom, let's go get her flowers. And we returned and we gave her flowers. And from that day on, she became a really good friend of ours. But I remember that after that, we spoke so much about, we had interreligious dialogue. And I just remember that it was a very genuine form of interreligious dialogue because it was one that wasn't pushed. So I hadn't even seen it as us defending her. I wish we had stood up when the gentleman was attacking her.
Hi, again, my name is Jordan Denary. And I know a number of us here participated in the 9/11 Unity Walk. And I was particularly moved by one experience that I had when we visited the DC Islamic Center. They were allowing all the visitors to enter the mosque, enter the prayer room. And as all of you know, women are expected to cover their hair and their arms and legs when they go into the mosque. And so I was kind of worried because I've prayed among Muslims before and covered my hair and worn long sleeves, and so I was used to that and I was prepared for that. But I wasn't sure how a lot of the other women would react. I wondered. I said, how many women are actually going to choose to enter the mosque and cover themselves up? And there was the longest line of women, and I was just really happy because I think so many American women misunderstand the reasons why Muslim women do cover themselves. They misinterpret it as, allowing yourself to be subjugated or things like that, as opposed to understanding the ideal of modesty or, covering yourself in God's presence, being respectful. Having seen a lot of the misunderstandings surrounding Muslim women, I was really, I was given a lot of hope when I saw that, so.
Hi, I'm Nastasia. I'm from India, so what Arun Gandhi was speaking about really resonated with me. Something that particularly stood out to me was what he said about introspection and service. I really like the idea of, looking into yourself and being able to look into yourself to move from pitying the world to compassion, because when you pity somebody, any service you do will only be momentary. It'll stop, but if you're compassionate, that service will carry on. And I think that a lot of that comes from introspection. If you can look into yourself and hold on to your faith and recognize, and I think holding on to your faith is recognizing your humanity, and that can help you recognize humanity in other people. I think that will move you from pity to compassion, and that really stood out to me.
One thing that I've just grown to truly believe is how when we encounter such a loss or such violence, how we should not just use that as an excuse to be angry or sad, but use that as an excuse to take action. And really it's almost like a responsibility that you have to try to prevent such violence from happening to someone else.
So I'm Muslim. I'm not extremely religious, but I was able to attend the Interfaith Iftar dinner hosted by President DeJoya in Riggs Library a couple of weeks ago. And it was a beautiful affair, and I wanted to ask some of my floor mates if they wanted to come with me. And I remember one of them, who's a really good friend of mine, has been since freshman year, kind of just like, no, like that's, and her tone just kind of made it seem that she would feel uncomfortable being in a setting like that she didn't really understand why she would, should attend an iftar dinner. It was like, a couple of days later, maybe like a week later, it was the anniversary of 9/11. I remember sitting down with her and another friend of ours who is Catholic, and just sitting in our common room and just watching the footage of 9/11 over and over and over again. And as we were like watching it, I remember like all of us had goosebumps, and we were just kind of all just like talking about emotions that we felt. Our Catholic friend is from New York City, and all three of us are from the Northeast, and we kind of were just talking about like little things. Like, I will always remember how I had a dentist appointment that day, and I was pulled out of school early, but I never went. I just sat in front of the TV with my mom watching it. And as we were talking, it kind of made me think, it kind of made me like forget about the incident that happened over the iftar, and we ended up sharing a lot of our personal faith feelings while we were watching the tape, and it kind of just made me feel really happy that something like 9/11 that had brought so much sadness and pain to our country could also connect people again.